The topic, as I said, is meeting the demands of rolling stock in Africa. Our chairperson for this session is Russell, the acting CEO of TFR. And I have already briefed him that as soon as he stands here, he will talk with for his session. Up to you, Russell.
Thank you, Bobby. Is it fine if I sit down? So, SARA President, board members, Executive Director, officials and colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to welcome our panel members this afternoon. We are from Custom Rolling Stock, we are from Homestead, England, Golden Chip, Garrison Manufacturing, and Thorburn, and then my colleague from Translate, Quali. So I think Johnny actually listened to the video. He actually nicely way into what we're going to discuss. We've got a shortage of locals. I think demand is less African. And I think we've got to discuss what do we need to do about this issue of rolling stock, what are our capabilities, and now we can work together to make sure that we have more rolling stock available in the country. There are some issues affecting us as the railways currently, as you've seen in the newspapers. It's this issue of rolling stock. Rolling stock, locomotives and wagons on our side specifically, that's transit freight locomotives. And then it's the issues of the infrastructure maintenance. Joint cooperation between African railways, well represented here today, I must say. And what foundation we would like to apply in an effective production and maintenance of rolling stock in Africa. So I've got a few questions today that I think I'd like to go into. Do you think in South Africa or in Africa there have enough rolling stock to meet the demands of the growing rail market? Whether there is capability and the capacity in Africa. Let's start with you, brother.
Thank you. I will talk more about how we can answer the demand we let the operators talk. Is there enough locomotives? My view, and I mean, we've been here for a while now, there is capacity, of course, to provide much more locomotives. At least I will talk about the electric ones. I think lots of work has been done over the last 10 years to bring this capacity to a level where we could supply not only South Africa, but as well the SADC area, even more. But what is important over this capacity to produce is how do we maintain this capacity over time? Because recurrent time and lifetime of a locomotive is somewhere around 40 years. And how do we maintain active the whole supply chain to make sure that there is no interruption? Why? It's not only to renew fleets, but it's as well to make sure that we can maintain the whole supply chain and the whole value we have created to support the operational activity of our customers. And mainly around maintenance, supply parts, and make sure that we have never interruption and we make that job easy for our customers to access to what they need to maintain this locomotive. So there is capacity. I mean, we can move it, working currently with Transnet in the website to produce the tracks 23E. I think it's a good product, it's a good success. We can increase, we can go faster, better, at least for the electric part. And then we need to make sure over time that not only we have new locomotives, but we have the way for our operators, for our customers, to use at the maximum and as productive as they can, with the most efficiency possible, these locomotives. And for that, you need to maintain alive the whole supply chain that has been created in this southern part of Africa.
Thank you, brother. Dobby, you want to add to that?
Yes, good afternoon. Rasta, I wanted to just share some context. So we have an understanding that there's over 17,000 women demand within the sub-Saharan region just for warehouse until 2030. There's a demand of about 170 locomotives, particularly within the diesel space. And quite correctly, as Alstom has said, we do have the capacity within the continent to meet this demand. There are obvious challenges around funding that should be addressed for us to be able to meet this demand. I think if you look at Transnet Engineering, for instance, we have an capability of manufacturing over 4,000 warehouse on an annual basis, and we have, through partnerships with Alstom and WebTech, have actually also assembled over 400 locomotive units. So we do have the capacity and the capability to meet this demand, but I think a lot of the challenges that exist there need to be addressed. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrew, on your side.
Thank you. Yes, we certainly see that there's demand for wagons in Africa. As Alison, we're seeing tremendous demand. We're seeing some of the constraints, and we believe that as African countries, we have the capacity to meet that demand. Makes sense. And it's not only Transnet engineering manufacture, but there are quite a few private manufacturers that can build at least another 1,000 wagons a year, and for quite a niche wagons that aren't that might be slightly different to the standard wagons. You see it as a constraint. We see constraints in finance is definitely an issue. Both the finance that needs to be raised by the operators in the various countries, and the finance by the suppliers ourselves. So that's something that would be really good to see more work done there, and have a financial system that's in line with some of the competitors from overseas. The other constraint we see is sometimes we find that though we have the capacity, we hear about work going overseas without us even hearing about it. And that's a bit sad, because we have the capacity to build here in Africa, and that means that we can, I think we're going to come to the maintenance and reliability, but by being here in Africa, we can maintain and service the product so much better. I think that's very long-term sustainability of our
But do you think in Africa we have the supporting industries to be able to assist in the maintenance thing and the manufacturing of those? It's not just about locomotive, but the components, the wheels, the traction motors, this is all of those. Do we have the capability to use that?
Yes, Russell. The answer is definitely yes. In Africa, we can do it 100%. About spares and maintenance and components, definitely. We have the capabilities. We have the companies. We have the downline, the companies that can, like J2, J3, if you call them, traction motors and other stuff. I think the best thing about us doing it in Africa, control of that, is we can do skills transfer where you're not sending. I was in one of the countries north of us, and they ship bogey across the sea to get maintained and come back to their country as maintenance. We can do it here. We'll definitely share skills. If we do it in Africa, and if Africa's building and supply it, they'll definitely share the skill to maintain it as well.
What are some of the constraints that we see in terms of increasing the African fleet, if I can call it that, in terms of, and I think I don't touch on some of the constraints. So, for instance, cost would be one of those things. I mean, in Transnet, for instance, we're about to embark on this open access. And
one of the barriers of entry is how entry would be rolling stuff. And the rolling stuff is costly. So what are those other barriers that we need to overcome if we want to increase rolling stock in Africa?
So can I take that? So I think, you know, we have a very difficult situation that we're in, where we want to increase demand of locomotives and wagons, but the infrastructure is one of the biggest challenges. So if you really traverse across the southern region, you will see that some of the railways just still need a lot of development. They're quite old. A lot of maintenance that's required, and actually quite large amount of investment needed. So even if we were to get the right number of wagons and locos, they wouldn't be able to actually move the volumes that are required to be moved. I mean, I think if you look at the projected volumes of over 16 million tons that can be moved by 2023, by 2030, the constraint will become that infrastructure. So it's not only a rolling stock problem that we have at hand, but it's also the infrastructure problem that's at hand. So we need to be able to solve both. And I think it can be solved if we really get into the right partnerships. You know, in our end, we're looking at the public-private partnerships that we're getting into. And those are to try and solve this exact problem of saying, once we've fixed the network and we've provided the rolling stock, then we can get the economy of scales that we need and get the volumes up again.
Bernard, in terms of older rolling stock, you spoke about locals being 40 years old. We've got locals that old and older. What do we do with those locals? Is there a market for them?
Yes, I mean, you can always, I mean, it depends on the evolution of the technology. I mean, operators are going usually in two ways. Either they try to extend the life of the locomotives, which is possibility providing that the original OEM most of the times still has this technology on board and is able to refurbish. Or you decide, depending on the state of the locomotives, to completely change, for instance, the traction of the locomotive and go into an evolution of the product, which is something as well that can be possible. But the condition based on that is that the locomotive has been well maintained over time. Otherwise, there's not much you can do at the end.
Andrew, what sort of role, and this is also maybe in Tommy in that, what sort of role can funders play in making sure that you have the ability to produce more rolling stock for the African continent? Because to my mind, cost of locomotives and wagons is a key barrier of entry for rail operators to get into the railway space.
I think obviously funding plays a key role, and it's something that's quite difficult. As a South African-based company, we approach funders based in South Africa and tell them that we want to do work that is based to the rest of Africa, which is specializing. We often get doors closed for us, whether it be the actual funding, whether it be the rates that are charged, or whether it be providing or guaranteed performance guarantees. We find that compared with our competitors, I mean from the East especially, we've got access to state banks with regional rates and don't have the same risk profile. It does become an issue. To overcome that, there's two ways. Either we have to self-finance, which is difficult, possible. But it is something that we'd really like to see our financial institutions taking a positive outlook on what I think is a really growing industry. Southern African.
I think if I could share that, Russell, there's also something that not just in what that where funders can also use the commodities It's not just getting back the funds from the operators, but we can work a deal with the commodities that they are moving so that they can get their earnings. It's not just from the operators themselves. That might work in the future.
So two things for me. I think the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is something that should be used as a model, right? And I think funders should use that to leverage off any bilateral, benefits that we can get from a regional perspective. That's one. But there's really has been some success stories. I mean, we had a funder through Taylor a couple of years ago who actually came in and had the interest around the right operator and the right manufacturer of rolling stock, and then were able to have an interest in this project. So I think it's in the way the financier team comes on board. I fully agree with you, Andrew. The rates are they're unbelievable how much some of these funders would want to charge the operators or the guys back rolling stock. But I think if they came closer to the projects and had a better understanding of the volumes, the business cases, then I certainly think these projects could work. And such a case was the Taylor project. Thanks.
So we find in terms of freight that a lot of the rolling stock right now in India is there's only the rolling stock that I think not only in South Africa, but in the rest of Africa is unused. And Tommy, this question for you is there a big market to refurbish some of the older rolling stock and making it available to other African countries?
Certainly there is. We have really seen some exciting new players in the space, which, it's really been good to see when the smaller guys come in. With the partnerships with OEMs and the right partnerships, we can get the right components and material to then provide this regrowth programs. We can repurpose the B fleet, both on the wagons and on the locomotive side, to be able to support the industry. So everything is around collaboration. It's around partnerships. The OEMs must come to the table. The funders must come to the table. Ourselves as Transnet must obviously provide those fleets. And I do think there's a lot of fleets that actually are even sitting in operator spaces. Where they've got fleets in Namibia, for instance, that were supplied a couple of years ago from the east. I think it requires the engineering community to get together and find solutions on how to bring those locomotives back online. And I'm quite certain there's a lot of these locals lying around in all the different operators that collectively, and I'm putting the challenge to SARA, if we did something together, we'd get maybe at least 20 or 30 going.
You're right. I was in London last year. I think we had was a 60-year-old. I don't think the locomotive actually recognize the change in the process. Running. Andrew, on your side, you also do some refurbishment of motor wagons.
So I just want to bring up, yes, we do refurbishments. We do refurbishments in this country. Private rail operators, most of the mines, and we have investigated doing some refurbishments in countries further north, though we haven't actually project on at the moment. Just one point about refurbishing wagons is that in some cases it's a very good idea, but it isn't always the case. As technologies develop, there are newer technologies, higher strength steels, better bogies than were used years ago that can result in much higher payloads per wagon, speeds, better wheel wear, and whilst it does work in some cases, it doesn't always work, and sometimes you go and then get a slightly cheaper price, you get a refurbished wagon, but now you're saddled with unnecessary high operating costs. You could have been getting a new wagon that is far more efficient and it's more reliable.
Payload is important. Payload is important. Because the weight of the wagon is increased. Mervyn, on your side, how can we work better together to make sure that we increase the fleet and grow the right business in Africa? Specifically focusing on the rolling stock fleet. What should we be doing as African countries
we've heard now, and this is something that I'd like to hear from all the panelists is, we've heard now that we should be engaging funders, we should be collaborating. We have the capacity, we have the capability, we have the supplies in South Africa. I think we've seen some interesting supplies here today and yesterday. So what can we do as African countries to work together to make sure that we increase the local scale funding? New and from existing ones that we can leverage.
I'd say one word, communication. First of all, SARA is a great platform. The members come together. The best part is the CEOs know each other very well of all the countries that are part of SARA. But I think that's where it stops. It should go further than that, where the maintenance teams should get to know each other. They should get to know the suppliers, they should get to so it should be communication in the region, that's what I would say. Where if we're looking for something, we shouldn't go across the water, we should look in and around our continent so that we can work together. Because we have sometimes, most of the time, it's like you said, the similar fleets. We can get funding, so that's not a problem. But I think if there's communication, like Andrew also said, things happen and most of us next door to a country will not know what's going on. So if there's communication, we can even offer advice to each other. It doesn't always mean purchasing from the person or taking their product, but it's also getting the advice from some countries that went down the same road that you're going down, where you're not going to make the same mistakes that they made. So it's one word, communication.
Are we doing enough of what you see now in terms of spreading those skills? So for instance, maintenance teams from this country going to another country and transferring those skills, should we be doing more? Before I get to you, and go back to the first question. Before I get to you, just from
I don't think the skills are being transferred as much. There is lots of skills. I know Transnet always have people coming to train, and there's lots of skills transfer being done. But I think it's communication. That's the main thing. Where lots of our operators need to know who to see, where to go, where to get those skills, because those skills are available. The training's available, not just in South Africa, because it's not just South Africa doesn't have all the companies that can do everything. In our southern African countries, there are skills there as well that we can use and uplift also.
Thanks. In terms of what should we be doing to collaborate and build a stock fleet, we learned that we have the capability, we have the skills, the suppliers are in the country.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I agree with Mervyn that this SARA initiative and this conference has been a great success. I've seen it grow over the years. I've seen the collaboration. I really think it's a great success. I think what's really important is that we have laid a lot of groundwork, making sure that the rolling stock across the region is compatible. And that's important for us as manufacturers as well, and to grow the fleet, is that we all understand, and Francis does very good work themselves, and put together a really comprehensive checklist of what the rolling stock is required for rolling stocks. I mean, it would be the structural footprint, the braking systems, the compatibility, the frames, the compatibility, the wheels, and everything is compatible. And I think it's a great benefit for all of us as manufacturers, because we know exactly what we want to do, what's required, and we can, without any risk to the operators, very little risk, make the wagons that are going to work for them, and if they need to, can be used across the region, and I think that's been a great success.
Thanks.
So I think, the element of training for me is quite important, exporting the skills so that the rail operators can be able to be sustainable. The decaying of these wagons and locos has been because of lack of maintenance through the years. So if we can get the right skill sets and the training, both at a technical, and process and systems level, it would really help. I think that's one of the things that we need to do. I think there's a lot of engineering capability that is housed in different centers, right? Be it Southern Africa, in East Africa, where there could be collaboration around technologies, solutions that we're working on. For instance, in Transnet, we have an R&D team that looks at really interesting and exciting solutions around energy efficiency systems, wagon payload technologies that they're working on that we could also export and be able to partner with the rest of the region. So for me, I think if we could do better in the way we provide the training and development amongst each other.
You've brought the toddler model, so those skills are here to build levels as well.
Certainly, so you're quite correct, thank you, Russell. So with the building of the tower, it was actually through learning over time, right? Through the right partnerships, and we've been able to actually integrate and build a first of its kind Africa locomotive, which is called the tower. We have them operating currently. They were operating up in the Cape, and now they'll be moving down here in Gauteng, and they're doing quite well. I must say they're competing and almost performing at the equal levels to some of the OEMs in the room. So I'm proud of that product. Thanks.
Should we begin?
Yeah, on my side, I think the way I see it in the southern part of Africa is that it needs much more partnership, because operators have to understand in front of their problem what are the solutions available, and what could I have all locomotives, who will help me to really differentiate whether I should refurbish and go for 10 years, or I should buy new product because it's more efficient, energy saving, transport more, less maintenance costs. So that's the first aspect. I mean, who is the partner who will help me for that? And the second, I mean, this never ends. I've always been praying for an Africa Railway Academy. Technologies are evolving all the time, and people need to be retrained. There is no secret. I mean, you have to bring people back to the boardroom and study again what's available in the market, what do the other do better than us, that would help us to improve. How do we bring with us all suppliers towards new technology, whether it is hydrogen or whether it is battery or new hybrid hydrogen techno, and how could this help us? We see more and more efficiency gained through digitalization. How do we train our people to that? How do we make them master the technology, to be able to convince the different operators management to switch and go a bit faster in deploying that? So, and this comes through learning. There is no other way. Learning.
So most of the fleets in Africa are older diesel fleets. In South Africa, you have a lot of electrical locos. How are we doing enough to develop those specialist skills in newer type of technologies and newer type of training in Africa? Rana? Spoke about the Rail Academy in your background, but I asked how are we doing enough in terms of developing those skills?
I'm not an expert in diesel, but I can talk about electric circle. We try to bring every time with our other technology, the way we see the evolution, a discussion with our customer on what is new and what could happen and how we could partner to do something different. I think it's working. We do it in Tanzania for signaling, we do it with you on the tracks, with Straza on the EMUs. And we need to, communication was said, it's very important, talk to each other and see what could be the benefit for our clients, for the operators. And that's the key of the success, in my view, is that this is the panel of things available, this is what has changed in the technology, and this is what you could adopt. Please have a look and tell us if you're interested or not, and we help to see how this could be developed and bring you.
Other final comments on meeting the railway, the rolling stock demands in Africa?
Russell, yeah, I definitely think in Africa we can do it. We have the capabilities,
think we spoke about the funding, which we have, can be sorted out soon. I think the most important thing, like we discussed, would be the communication, the discussions, knowing what each company or each relevant country can do and use those skill sets. I think that's where we can go from. Thanks.
From our side, I believe we as Southern Africa have the capability to provide the wagons that are required between all of us. I think the challenges we talk about, the financial challenges we face, but one of the most important challenges is just consistency in manufacture. And I think we're not asking for special privileges, we're asking for fair opportunity to make that rolling stock. And I think if we were given opportunities to keep a consistent manufacturing process going, make us more efficient manufacturers for one, and that would mean that all the OEM wagons that are made to exactly the SARA specification and have the backup close to pass. So we're asking, we believe that like getting our fish so we can make the real difference in as an industry.
So from Transnet, we are open for business. We would love to be in the right partnerships with industry. Transit engineering is a builder of locomotives and wagons, and all various types of wagons we maintain and manufacture. Please contact us. We are available here today, we'll be there at the stand. Let's build for you. Let's make sure that we can meet this demand.
Well, on my side, I would say rail is more. I mean, rail is more capacity, rail is more safety, rail is more connectivity, more well-being. We were seeing the HR panel before. More predictability, and predictability is growth in some way. And we are here to help, we are here to support. We partner already with a number of key players. And I'm sure we can bring much more than what we bring today. So I would join my partners in saying first we need to get a little more visibility, as I was saying at the beginning. Maintaining supply chain, in my view, is really vital, because whenever you stop, you interrupt a supply chain, then even if it is for a year or two, it's going to take you 5 to 10 years to restart it. And that's critical. And the second is to continue to foster development. I mean, partnership, as Anthony would say, is critical. So, and we need to collaborate, because there is no sole source of I know everything. We all have different competency, we all have different capacity, we all have different needs as well, that together we can satisfy and bring the railways in a much higher state than what it is today.
Thank you. Executive Director, we've gone up with the time, but just in closing, what I've picked up is we should be communicating more. And maybe there need to be additional platforms where we speak to each other more, so that we can come up with joint solutions. We should be collaborating more, developing our skills, issues of interoperability, making sure our rolling stock can traverse over border, and that we maximize the availability of border fleets, and so that we can grow this significantly. Because it's a topical discussion currently, and we should all make sure that we will make sure that we increase the volumes.
Ladies and gentlemen, normally our last session is not as lively as this was. Let's give them another round of applause.